The metal walls of orbital station KX-12 hummed with the constant vibration of mining machinery. Hyun adjusted her safety helmet as she walked through the narrow corridor toward the main extraction hub. 5 years working as a mining engineer for Stellar Resources Corporation had taught her to recognize the sounds of properly functioning equipment. Today, something was wrong. That drill press shouldn't make that noise, she muttered, making a note on her tablet. When she entered the control room, Director Day was already there, his tall figure bent over the production charts. His face showed no emotion as workers rushed around him, preparing for the day shift. "Production is down 8%, Director Day said without looking up. "Fix it." Hyun took a deep breath. "The drill press in Sector 4 needs maintenance." "The safety." "No time," Director Day cut her off. "We have quotas to meet. The company expects results." "But the last inspection showed." "The inspection is my concern, not yours." Director Day finally looked at her, his eyes cold. "Your job is to make sure we extract enough or to meet our targets." Hyun watched him walk away. This wasn't the first time he had ignored her warnings. Last month, the air filters had failed in Sector 2. 3 workers had suffered lung damage. Director Day had called it an acceptable operational incident. Later that day, Hyun sat in the crowded workers' cafeteria with her friend Jean. The food was bland, but no one complained. Jobs on KX-12 were hard to get and easy to lose. "He ignored you again?" Jean asked, keeping his voice low. Hyun nodded. "The drill press could break any moment. If it does while someone is working." Jean looked around nervously. "Be careful what you say. Director Day has ears everywhere." "Someone has to say something," Hyun insisted. "The company cuts corners on everything. Last week, I found out they're using outdated oxygen regulators. The new ones cost more, but they're 10 times safer." Jean pushed his food tray away. "What can we do? We're just workers." The station alarm blared suddenly, cutting through their conversation. Red lights flashed along the walls. "Emergency in Sector 4. All engineering personnel report immediately," the automated voice announced. Hyun and Jean ran with the others toward Sector 4. When they arrived, chaos greeted them. The drill press had broken loose from its mounting. 2 workers lay on the floor while others tried to help them. "I told him," Hyun whispered. "I told him this would happen." For the next week, Hyun documented everything. She took pictures of broken equipment, recorded maintenance requests that were denied, and collected stories from other workers. The company's disregard for safety was worse than she had realized. Then came the day that changed everything. Hyun was checking support beams in a newly opened mining tunnel when her tablet beeped with an urgent message. Structural integrity in Sector 7 was failing. Jean was working there. She ran as fast as she could, but she was too far away. By the time she reached Sector 7, the tunnel had collapsed. Rescue teams worked for hours to reach the trapped workers. When they finally broke through, they found no survivors. Jean and 2 others were dead. That night, alone in her small quarters, Hyun couldn't sleep. Images of Jean kept appearing in her mind. She opened her tablet and began searching through the Galactic Labor Code. There had to be something she could do, some way to stop this from happening again. Deep in the legal text, she found something interesting. Humans, being relatively new to the galactic community, had special protections. Their biology was considered more fragile than many other species, but their spirit was recognized as uniquely determined. The code allowed human workers to file claims directly to the Galactic Labor Authority, bypassing corporate systems. Hyun sat up straight. This was it. A way forward. The next morning, she walked past Director Day's office with new purpose. She would gather evidence. She would build a case. And then she would do what no one on KX-12 had ever dared before. She would sue the company and Director Day for creating an unsafe workplace. For the first time since Jin's death, Hyun felt hope. This would be difficult and dangerous, but she was ready. The stars visible through the station's small viewport seemed to shine brighter as she made her plan. Hyun crouched in the darkened storage room, her tablet's screen dimmed to avoid detection. The station's night cycle had begun, and most workers were in their sleeping quarters. This was her chance. "Recording file 23, she whispered, activating her tablet's camera. She carefully documented the cracked oxygen pipes running along the ceiling. The company had patched them with temporary sealant months ago, promising proper replacements that never came. For 3 weeks since Jin's death, Hyun had been gathering evidence. Her tablet now contained over 100 recordings, photographs, and copied maintenance logs. Each one showed how Stellar Resources Corporation and Director Day had ignored basic safety rules. A noise in the corridor made her freeze. Footsteps approached, then stopped outside the storage room. Hyun held her breath, sliding behind a large crate. The door slid open. A beam of light swept across the room. "Who's there?" a voice called. Hyun stayed silent, heart pounding. The light moved closer. "I know someone's here." "I saw the door open." Deciding to take a chance, Hyun stood up. "It's just me, Mok." The light lowered, revealing Mok's surprised face. The maintenance worker was shorter than Hyun, with tired eyes that had seen too many accidents on the station. "What are you doing here so late?" he asked, looking suspicious. Hyun made a quick decision. "I need your help." She showed Mok her tablet. His eyes widened as he scrolled through the evidence she had collected. "You're building a case against the company," he whispered. "That's dangerous." "More dangerous than working here?" Hyun asked. 3 people died last month. Jean would be alive if the company had followed safety rules. Mok was quiet for a long moment. "My sister was hurt in the oxygen failure last year. The company gave her 2 days of rest, then sent her back to work. She still can't breathe right." He handed the tablet back to Hyun. "What do you need?" "Access to the restricted maintenance records. And the company financial reports showing where the safety budget went." Mok nodded. "I can get you into the system. But be careful. Director Day doesn't like people asking questions." The next day, Director Day called Hyun to his office. She entered cautiously, wondering if he suspected something. "Your work performance has been noticed," he said, not looking up from his screen. "I have a new assignment for you." "A new assignment?" Hyun asked. "Effective immediately, you'll be working in radioactive ore processing." Hyun felt cold. The processing division was the most dangerous part of the station. Protective equipment was minimal, and exposure levels were high. It was where Director Day sent workers he wanted to punish. "May I ask why?" she managed to say. Director Day finally looked at her. "We need your expertise there." They both knew it was a lie. This was a warning. Hyun began her new assignment the next day. The conditions were worse than she had imagined. Workers moved quickly, trying to limit their radiation exposure. The shielding around the processing tanks was thin and damaged in places. Using her engineering knowledge, Hyun began making small, hidden improvements. She rerouted power to strengthen the remaining shields. She modified work schedules to reduce each person's exposure time. She built makeshift radiation detectors from spare parts, hiding them where supervisors wouldn't notice. At night, she continued building her case with Mok's help. They worked carefully, knowing Director Day was watching. "I got the financial records," Mok told her one night, transferring files to her tablet. The safety budget was cut by 60% last year. The money went to executive bonuses instead. "This is exactly what we needed," Hyun said. "With this evidence, we can." Her tablet beeped with an urgent message. It was from another worker. Mok had been suddenly reassigned to a mining colony 10 light-years away. The transfer order came directly from Director Day. The message ended with, "Be careful. You might be next." Hyun sat alone in her quarters that night, thinking. Director Day was removing anyone who helped her. Soon, he would come for her too. She looked at the evidence she had gathered. It was enough. Tomorrow she would file the official complaint and lawsuit through the Galactic Labor Authority. Once filed, the company couldn't legally retaliate against her. Han made a backup of everything and hid it in 3 different places on the station. If anything happened to her, the evidence would still reach the authorities. "This is for you, Jean," she whispered as she prepared the formal complaint. "And for everyone else who has suffered here. Things are going to change." The Galactic Labor Authority message flashed on screens throughout Station KX-12, formal complaint filed, employee Hyun vs. Stellar Resources Corporation and Director DAE. Workers gathered in small groups, speaking in hushed voices. No one had ever dared to challenge the company so openly before. Hyun walked through the main corridor, feeling eyes follow her. Some looked afraid, others hopeful. "You actually did it," whispered Tae, a young engineer who had started just months before. "Everyone's talking about it." "Someone had to," Hyun replied. She kept walking, trying to appear calmer than she felt. The lawsuit was filed. There was no going back now. By midday, Director Day summoned her to his office. When Hyun entered, she was surprised to find 2 company executives had joined via hologram. Their expressions were grim. "Sit down," Director Day ordered. His voice was controlled, but Hyun could see anger in his eyes. One of the executives spoke first. "We understand you filed some concerns with the Galactic Labor Authority." "I filed a formal lawsuit for safety violations that led to deaths and injuries," Hyun corrected. "Including documented evidence of budget cuts that directly caused these problems." "Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding," the other executive said smoothly. "Stellar Resources values all our employees. We're prepared to offer you a solution that benefits everyone." Director Day slid a tablet across the desk. "A promotion to Safety Oversight Manager. Double your current salary. Plus a signing bonus of 50,000 credits." Hyun looked at the offer. It was more money than she would earn in 5 years. "All you need to do is withdraw your complaint," Director Day added. "We'll implement some visible safety improvements. Everyone wins." "Everyone except Jean and the others who died," Hyun said, pushing the tablet back. "I'm not withdrawing the complaint." The holograms flickered as the executives exchanged glances. "Think carefully about this," Hyun, one said. "A lengthy legal battle benefits no one. Your career prospects within Stellar Resources or any major corporation will be severely limited." "My decision is final," Hyun said, standing up. "The Galactic Labor Authority will review my evidence and make their ruling." She left the office, her heart pounding. The threat was clear: take the money or be blacklisted. That evening, Hyun received messages from several workers. They wanted to meet secretly, to tell her about their own experiences. One by one, they shared stories of injuries, unsafe conditions, and company threats. Hyun recorded everything, adding to her case. "We support what you're doing," said Min, an older worker who had been on the station for 12 years. "But many are too scared to speak up publicly." "I understand," Hyun assured them. "Your stories help, even anonymously." When Hyun returned to her quarters that night, she felt uneasy. She checked her door's security lock twice before going to sleep. Hours later, a loud hissing sound woke her. The air was becoming thin. Her room's oxygen level display flashed red with a warning: system failure. Hyun jumped from her bed, grabbing her emergency breather. The door wouldn't open, it was locked from the outside. The control panel had been disabled. "Emergency override," she shouted at the room's computer. No response. The oxygen level dropped faster. Hyun's breather would only last 20 minutes. Thinking quickly, she pried open a maintenance panel near the floor. All quarters had emergency access tunnels for repairs. The panel came loose, revealing a narrow passage. Hyun squeezed inside just as her room's light shut off completely. She crawled through the dark tunnel, following her memory of the station's layout. After what seemed like hours, she reached another panel and pushed it open, emerging in a supply closet. She took deep breaths of the normal air, then checked her tablet. It was 3:30 in the station's night cycle. This was no accident. Someone had tried to kill her by depressurizing her quarters. Han sent an urgent message to the Galactic Labor Authority, reporting the attempt on her life. Then she went to the station's public communications center and broadcast a message to all workers. This is Hyun. Last night, someone tried to kill me by cutting off oxygen to my quarters. This proves how desperate Director Day is to silence the truth. I'm still alive, and the lawsuit continues. Anyone who has faced similar threats, come forward now. Together, we are stronger than they are. By morning, the message had spread throughout the station. Workers gathered in the cafeteria, talking openly now. When Director Day entered, the room fell silent. He looked around, noticing the united front of workers staring back at him. For the first time, he looked uncertain. Hyun stood up. The Galactic Labor Authority has moved up the hearing date after the attempt on my life. They're sending representatives to the station today. This ends now, Director. The tribunal chamber aboard the Galactic Authority ship was larger than any room Hyun had ever seen on KX-12. 3 judges sat at a raised platform, 1 human, 1 blueskin Levian, and 1 crystalline Torx. Their faces showed no emotion as they reviewed documents on their screens. Han sat at a small table with her assigned legal representative, an older woman named June who specialized in labor disputes. Across the room, Director Day was surrounded by 5 corporate lawyers, all wearing identical gray suits. This tribunal will now hear case number GLA 7729, announced the human judge. Hyun vs. Stellar Resources Corporation and Director Day, regarding alleged safety violations on orbital station KX-12. The lead corporate lawyer stood. Honored judges, this case is a simple misunderstanding. The human worker Hyun, while well-meaning, lacks the experience to properly interpret safety regulations in a space mining context. June squeezed Hyun's arm gently, signaling her to remain calm. The lawyer continued, humans are relatively new to interstellar mining operations. What may seem unsafe to them is standard procedure across the galaxy. Director Day has managed KX-12 efficiently for 15 years with productivity levels that benefit the entire sector. When the corporate lawyer finished, June stood. Honored judges, this case is not about cultural misunderstandings. It is about deliberate neglect that caused deaths. We will present evidence that safety budgets were cut to increase executive bonuses, despite known risks. The Torx judge's crystalline form glinted as she spoke. We will review the evidence. Proceed. One by one, corporate witnesses testified about acceptable risk levels and industry standards. They showed charts comparing KX-12's accident rates with other dangerous operations, arguing the numbers were within acceptable parameters. When Director Day testified, he appeared confident. Running a mining operation requires difficult decisions. Workers sometimes don't understand the bigger picture. Hyun is a good engineer but lacks management perspective. During a break, Hyun whispered to June, they're making it sound like deaths are just part of doing business. That's exactly their argument, June replied. But we have something they don't expect. When the session resumed, June called Hyun to testify. She described the conditions on KX-12, the ignored safety reports, and Jin's preventable death. The judges listened carefully as she explained how she had secretly improved safety systems in the radioactive or processing section. The improvements I made cost almost nothing, Hyun said. Yet they reduced radiation exposure by 40%. Safety wasn't expensive, the company simply didn't care. The corporate lawyers objected repeatedly, but the judges allowed Hyun to continue. She presented her documented evidence, maintenance logs, budget reports, and recordings of workers describing their injuries. Then June revealed their surprise. We call our next witness, appearing via secure communication, Mach, former maintenance worker on KX-12. Mach's face appeared on the large screen. He looked nervous but determined. After helping Hyun gather evidence, I was suddenly transferred to a distant mining colony. But before I left, I placed hidden cameras in Director Day's office. The corporate lawyers jumped to their feet, shouting objections. The judges called for order. The recording was obtained without permission, argued the lead lawyer. The Levian judge raised a blue hand. Given the life-threatening conditions described and the attempt on Hyun's life, we will allow this evidence. The screen showed Director Day speaking with an executive after Hyun filed her complaint. Their words were clear: accidents are cheaper than safety equipment. If workers die, we replace them. It's simple math. Silence filled the chamber. Even the corporate lawyers looked shocked. The final testimony came from the families of dead workers. Jin's mother spoke last, her voice steady despite her grief. My son told me the support beams were cracking. He reported it 3 times. Director Day told him to keep working or lose his job. The next day, the tunnel collapsed on him. As the hearing concluded, a representative from the Human Diplomatic Corps arrived. His presence signaled that the case had gained attention beyond a simple labor dispute. Humans throughout the galaxy were watching. The judges announced they would review all evidence before making their decision. As everyone filed out of the chamber, Director Day avoided looking at Hyun. That night, Hyun couldn't sleep. June had told her the case was strong, but Stellar Resources was powerful. Many corporate giants had escaped punishment before. Her tablet beeped with a message from an unknown sender: whatever happens tomorrow, you've already won. Workers on 12 other stations have filed similar complaints. This is just the beginning. Hyun looked out the viewport at the stars. For the first time since Jin's death, she smiled. Win or lose, things were changing. The tribunal chamber was completely silent as the 3 judges returned. Workers, corporate representatives, and journalists from across the galaxy packed every available space. Hyun sat straight in her chair, trying to control her breathing. The human judge spoke first. After reviewing all evidence in case number GLA 7729, this tribunal has reached a unanimous decision. Hyun felt June's hand grip hers under the table. We find Stellar Resources Corporation and Director Day guilty of willful negligence resulting in preventable deaths and injuries. The evidence shows a pattern of safety violations motivated by profit at the expense of worker welfare. Gasps and whispers filled the room. The corporate lawyers looked stunned. Director Day's face had gone pale. The Levian judge continued, reading from a tablet. The penalties are as follows. Director Day is removed from his position effective immediately and barred from management roles in any mining operation for 10 years. Director Day started to protest, but his lawyers pulled him back down to his seat. Stellar Resources Corporation must implement comprehensive safety reforms on all its stations under the supervision of Galactic Labor Authority inspectors. The company will pay compensation to the families of all workers who died or were injured due to safety violations. The crystalline torch judge delivered the final part of the ruling. Most significantly, this tribunal establishes what will now be known as the Hyun Standard for worker safety. This standard will apply to all companies operating in Galactic Confederation space, regardless of the species of their workers. June squeezed Hyun's hand. We did it, she whispered. As the session ended, reporters surrounded Hyun, asking questions about her feelings and plans. She answered simply, this was never about me. It was about Jean and all the others who suffered. Outside the chamber, a Stellar Resources executive approached Hyun. The company would like to offer you a settlement. 5 million credits in exchange for your agreement not to speak publicly about this case. Hyun looked at the executive for a long moment. I don't want your money. Use it to make your stations safer. 2 days later, Hyun stood in a small office on the Galactic Authority station. Around her were workers from various planets and species who had reached out after hearing about her case. They had all experienced similar dangerous conditions. What we achieved with one case, we can do across the galaxy, Hyun told them. I'm using my compensation funds to start the Worker Safety Alliance. We'll help anyone fighting for basic protection, regardless of their planet or species. A tall draconian maintenance worker raised his scaled hand. Companies will fight back. They have money and lawyers. And we have the truth, Hyun replied. Plus, the Hyun standard gives us legal standing we never had before. Over the next months, Hyun traveled to mining stations, factories, and cargo ships across the galaxy. Everywhere she went, workers gathered to hear her speak. The Workers' Safety Alliance grew rapidly, with offices on 17 planets. 6 months after the ruling, Hyun returned to KX-12 for the first time. The station had transformed. New safety systems had been installed. Warning signs were clearly posted in multiple languages. Regular inspection reports were displayed publicly. The new station manager, a former engineer named Suk, gave Hyun a tour. The accident rate is down by 87%, she explained. And surprisingly, productivity is up. Workers who aren't afraid are more efficient. As they walked through the main corridor, workers stopped to greet Hyun. Many wanted to shake her hand or simply say thank you. A memorial to Jean and the others who had died now stood in the central gathering area. That evening, Hyun addressed the station's workers. What happened here has changed conditions across the galaxy. The Hyun standard has been applied in over 200 cases so far. But this isn't really about me. It's about all of us standing together. She pointed to a simple symbol painted on the wall, a human hand raised in solidarity. This symbol now appears on stations across the galaxy. It reminds everyone that when we unite against injustice, we can win. As Hyun finished speaking, a worker stepped forward and handed her something. It was Jin's old work badge, recovered from the tunnel collapse. His mother wanted you to have this, the worker said. She said Jin would be proud. Later, alone in her guest quarters, Hyun looked out at the stars. She thought about how one small action, her decision to gather evidence, had grown into a movement that spanned the galaxy. She thought about Jin and the others whose deaths had not been in vain. On her tablet, messages continued to arrive from workers on distant planets asking for help. The work was far from finished, but now they had hope. The precedent had been set. The universe was changing, one workplace at a time.